Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is a Dreams Gadget tutorial. Today we are looking at the Selector. That's this one here. What this does is allows you to turn things on and off, activate, send pulses, send signals, send numbers, all sorts of things. It is a very versatile prop, but is very, very simple. It doesn't really have much of a tweak menu to speak of. So let's have a look at it and see what it does. So at the top we have the number of ports. So you can select up to 10 ports and they are listed as A, B, C, D, E down to J. The smallest amount you can have is 2. So you can swap between 2 different states with the Selector. Now, how this works is you can send a signal to the input side and you can send a wire out on the output side. And when this is lit up, when this is selected, when this one of however many is on, it's going to send a pulse, send a signal of 1 to whatever you've got this connected to. So in most cases that will turn things on. So a 1 will power on a microchip. So if you've got it linked up to the power, it will power that on. So you can link this up to things like timelines or microchips or, well, anything really. Anything with an input socket you can wire it to. If, however, you wire something into this side, then it can send out whatever this is to this output. So not just a 1 or a 0, it can be another number, and I'll show you that in a minute. So down here we have move to next output and move to previous output. So if you wire a pulse into this, what it will do is it will move down through your selector. When it gets to the last one and you send a pulse to move to next output, it will go to the first one again and go through it again. So just to show you, so if we move to the next output, it would go to B, then C, then D, then A, then B, then C, then D, then A. And the reverse is true for this. Move to previous output, it will go A to D to C to B to A to D. So that's what that is doing. This is pass-through. This allows you to pass a signal through the input sockets on each of these through when they are selected. Like again, I will show you that in a minute. And this is active port. This you can put an input in here to select a port. And don't forget, this starts on a 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So it's 0 is the first one, then 1. So you can send a pulse with the number 1 or 2 or 4, and it will automatically select that selection. Or ignoring this side, you can just have this, and it will still send out a number which corresponds to which active port is currently active. Right, so let me show you what it sends out. So movers and outputs, let's go with 3. I think that's enough to demonstrate. Let's put a controller sensor in. Delete these. I wish these didn't come with those wires. I always have to delete them. It's an annoyance. Right, okay, there. Right, we're going to use the square button. And I'm going to move to next output with the square button. We'll make sure it's remote. Let's turn it on. Number displayer, so that's that one. And that's that one, and that's the third one. So as you can see, A is lit up at the moment, and it's sending a 1 signal to our number displayer. So press square. Perhaps I shouldn't have used square. What should I use? Triangle. L1. Let's use L1. I know that's not being used for anything. Right, let's do that. Okay, let's try that again. L1. L1, as you can see, is every time I press L1, it's activating this, and that's changing our input A, B, C. And let's look at the numbers. So A is a 1, B is a 1, C is a 1. So that's sending a signal out from the active port, and it's sending a single signal of 1 or 0. Right, let's try something else. So if I get a counter, okay, it doesn't really matter. Let's set the counter to show 27. And we'll link the current count into A. And we'll make this counter worth 9. And we'll pop that into B. We'll leave C as it is. Okay, so now I'm going to press the L1 button. And again, it's just showing you 1s and 0s. These are having no effect whatsoever unless I press the pass through. And now, because that is wired into A, it's sending through that number 27. And now it's sending the 9. And now, because there is nothing connected to C, that's just sending the normal 1. So you can see you can use the selector to pass a particular number. And of course, I've got this counter set up that can be changed from pressing buttons, etc. So that number is different every time. So the number that this sends to whatever you've got it wired to will be different every time. So this is very useful for passing information through to various outputs. So there we go. And just to wire up the number displayer, let's put it down the bottom here. There we go. So 0, 1, 2. As you can see there, this is displaying this number here is displaying what the active port is. And like I said, it starts from 0, then 1, then 2, then back to 0 again. So that's very useful as well. And like I say, you can wire a pulse into here with the number, so that you can actually activate a port, a port that way. So you can use this selector to activate individual things. So if you've got, say, animations that you don't want to overlap each other, you can use the selector so it will only play one at a time, one animation only, and then you haven't got any clashing and things getting a bit funny. So selectors are good for that. I've actually used a selector in a tutorial previously. I don't think I've got it open. There it is, music selector. If I pop that down, let's have a look at that. This was something I set up in the beta. What this does, this selector, as you can see, I've wired up the up button and the down button on the D-pad to the move to next output and move to previous output. And these are linked up to the color, text color on some text and some music. So let's go into that so you can see. Right, there we go. So the D-pad, it changes, and we have a selector, so we can have no music. So we can link up multiple things to the selector, so it can do lots of different things. You can link up timelines, keyframes, microchips, as many as you like to each thing. So at the moment this is doing two things. It's changing this to white and playing the music. So there we go. That's a very simple selector to play different music things. So if you've got a music selection, you can make something like this so that your players can let's turn that off, so your players can enjoy your music in it's like a jukebox. So there we are. That that's a way of using a selector. And the move to next output, so every time I press these buttons I'm selecting a different one. And that's a way to do a menu, etc. That's a way to use the selector. Right, so there you go. I hope that was useful and it gives you some ideas about how you might use the selector in future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in your dreams.